By now, we're all familiar with our favorite forager and indigenous foodie, Luby Rush, from Making Kos. She's joining me in studio, but we're also joined by another very special guest. Cherise Viljoen is from Kirstenbosch Garden, and they're going to talk to us about something very exciting. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's a great pleasure. Always enjoy being here.
Now, Cherise, I want you to start us off, please, because
Sure.
we're gearing up for something very exciting at Kirstenbosch. Tell us what it is.
It's a fantastic event every year. We hold an annual plant fair where we celebrate indigenous plants that have come from Kirstenbosch, from growers throughout the Western Cape, and from hobbyists, home growers. And they come and they bring all their indigenous plants, and we sell them at the fair, we promote them. We have books and kids' activities. It's really a day out. And of course, every year there's a theme. And this year we've decided to celebrate the trend of urban food gardening and show people what indigenous plants of theirs can be eaten from their garden. And that's where Luby comes in, of course.
I can just see you light up when you hear this, Luby. So tell us why you're so excited about this.
Well, you know, my kind of motto is learn to know, grow and eat indigenous food. So having a whole plant fair dedicated to the subject of feasting on fynbos is, of course, a complete switch on for me. Because it really means that people are going to be able to put together the tasting as well as the buying, and hopefully then eventually start cooking for themselves. But certainly at this fair they'll be able to taste, because there'll be 3 of us who will be doing some demonstrating and tasting and selling. There'll be Roshana Gray, who's from Good Hope Gardens Nursery down in South Peninsula. And then there's Kobus van der Merwe, who has written a book called Strandveld Food and has a restaurant called Up for Koop in Paternoster. And then there's myself, Making Kos.
Now, Cherise, a lot of us don't even realize that some of these plants that are indigenous are edible. And are we hoping to change that this weekend?
Absolutely. One of the things I was hoping to do was, besides getting people to maybe buy a few more plants to add to their garden that are edible, I was hoping that they would realize that many of the plants they already have, if they've already gone indigenous, which so many of our Capetonians have, that they would realize, oh, we can add that leaf to flavor tea, we could eat that berry that we see coming up every year. And we get really excited about it. It's a fundraising event for Kirstenbosch. So it's to promote indigenous plants, it's to help raise funds to develop the garden, and it's about interacting with the public that come. We have horticulturists on hand, which is lovely, because you can ask them immediately. The horticulturists that plant everything in the garden and do all the designs will be there to answer any gardening question. We've got garden guru t-shirts. We're all very proud that everyone thinks we're gurus in the garden. And we'll be on hand as well. So it's a wonderful event, and it happens every single year, and we are hoping that we're going to have massive crowds and supporting us and coming along.
Why is it important for us to be planting indigenous plants in our garden?
It's such a multiple faceted question, because it supports the local flora, which if it's getting rare and endangered, we do actually promote those plants at the fair if their wild habitats are being destroyed. If you plant indigenous plants in your garden, you're helping to conserve them and keep them going. The local indigenous plants also support local wildlife and insects and pollinators, and helps keep them going as their natural habitats are decreased. They are very cost effective because they are adapted to the local climate. You don't need to add very much more to them to make them happy. They're used to winter rainfall, they're used to poor soils, which a lot of us have these conditions in our garden, wind. And so it's just beautiful. Local is lekker, proudly South African, all of that. It's all wrapped up in taking an indigenous plant home with you.
And I'm so excited at the idea of eating them too. So, Luby, this looks beautiful as always. What are we looking at?
Well, today I decided I would showcase kai apples for a couple of reasons. Firstly, because there are some bushes around in fruit at the moment. They're an interesting plant because although they originate in a sort of summer rainfall or summer-winter crossover rainfall area, they're very well naturalized to the Western Cape. So the trees that I picked from do not get irrigated at all, and in fact kind of bear twice a year. It's as if they've got the memory of where they originate from, as well as their new climate kind of in them. So today we're looking at kai apples. You can see them there on the table.
They're
gorgeous
beautiful.
Yellow color.
Let me get one. They really are beautiful.
And they have a very particular scent.
Yes.
And they have white seeds in them that are fairly soft. So sometimes I get people asking me, do I peel them and de-seed them? And I tend not to, because I don't mind the texture at all. If I make jelly, then I would strain them. But otherwise, I include the skin and the seeds. They cook down to a pulp very quickly. And I make a variety of things. Here on the table, I've got some cordial, which is gorgeous color. And the aroma is very clear and strong in the bottle as you smell it. Then I've also made a jam where literally I've just cooked the fruit with some sugar, and it sets quite happily on its own because it's reasonably high in pectin. I've also made a Kai apple marmalade because it combines, it smooths the marmalade out. I've used ruby grapefruit, and it just makes a very gentle marmalade. And then the last one I made, I've made two different chutneys. I've made one which is with pumpkin, and then the other one I've made with onions and apples. So yes, they're good for savory as well as sweet. What I haven't done yet is to dehydrate them, which I would quite like to do, so that, like dehydrated, we do fynbos and all of those sorts of things. It would be quite nice to experiment with that sort of thing as well.
Now, before we taste, where would I find this? Would it be on a tree or on a bush? Where would I find it?
They are a small tree, but are very happily kept in trim to make a hedge. As you can see, Cherie's holding it there, they have almighty thorns. So they make a fantastic security hedge.
Organic barbed wire.
Yes.
They really, in fact, I've got scratches on me from picking the fruit that I did. And, the fruit, when it's very ripe, drops to the ground. So when I collect, I tend to just go fairly regularly and collect those that have dropped onto the ground, on soft ground, so that they don't bruise too easily, so that I don't actually have to do battle with the thorns.
But don't you think that this is just such a South African plant? And last time we spoke about the Natal plum too, who had the little thorns on.
Yeah.
We're a tough bunch.
The Natal, yes, it is the Natal. Yeah, Natal plum, you're quite right.
I was paying attention.
You were. Somebody in our neighborhood actually recently has taken everything that they had along their wall out and planted a whole row of Kai apples. Now, that's good for a number of reasons, because there are male and females, and the males don't bear. So if you are interested in the fruit, then plant several. So that's also why a hedge is a good idea, that you've got a better chance of making sure you've got a girl in there to give you fruit.